Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. Excited to be here today. I am going to talk to you about daily routines. I always feel like it's not much of a spoiler for me to say the topic of the podcast because you already saw the title, but you know, I guess I need to introduce things that way. I'm trying to be formal around here somewhat anyway. But today's episode is about daily schedules. Do they work for ADHD? Is it possible? Do we need them? We definitely need them, but maybe not all the time. And sometimes we need a little break from routine, but in order to get things done and have our brains not be overtaxed, exhausted, all those things, having a routine is really, really helpful because we just go through the motions of doing things. And often we think of, at least I do, of a daily routine being, okay, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to wake up. At 6:15, I'm going to do this. At 7 o'clock, I'm going to do that. That's how I first set up a daily schedule when I was in college. I had it down to the 15-minute mark, the hour, whatever. And I was only in charge of myself. And I was able to do that. I was able to predict how the day would go. I had classes at certain times. And I don't think I scheduled out the weekend, but knew it's the weekend. And so on the weekend, I'd do things with friends or go to church or whatever I did. But for the day to day, I had that little schedule and I stuck to it. I've had workout routines or plans, a 6 week routine of for this week I'll focus on building strength plus cardio, 3 different kinds, spin, rebounder, step, high low, high impact, whatever. And I would have my routine all set up from the beginning and I'd stick to it. And then there were times that I just stopped doing that. Or I couldn't stick to it as much. I felt like when I tried to do it, I'd question it and think, "I don't know if this is what I wanna do. I don't yeah, I said I'd wake up at this time, but I didn't wake up at that time, or I got distracted and I did this." And then you feel bad. It's kinda like when you set a whole plan, like a diet, if you've ever gone on a diet, and for breakfast, I'm gonna eat this, and for lunch, I'm gonna eat that, or it's suggested to you, and then you either don't do it, you don't have an ingredient or don't feel like doing it. So sometimes we want to break out of a routine. But today I just want to talk about how to create a routine that you will want to stick with, that will work for your brain, where you're not having to make a lot of decisions and and you try it out. And if you have to make a change, you make a change, but you try it out. And there's a lot of different components to this, and there's different books on creating habits. The Power of Habit is one that I liked from long ago, or Atomic Habits. There's different books that you could read or listen to if you have a hard time sitting and reading a book. But you don't have to plan out every hour. You don't have to say, at this time I'm doing this, and this time I'm doing that. But you might need to be able to get something done within a half hour. Like, I'm going to get up, and let's say it takes a half hour for you to shower, get dressed, put on your makeup, do your hair. Or let's say you only have 10 minutes to do that. Can you do that? So you learn from experience and trial and error, how how long it takes to get something done. And if you have time blindness, you may not even have any idea. You might think you know how long it takes to get something done, and you actually don't. So figuring that out can be important. But having different chunks of your day have a routine. So you can have your morning routine, your I just got out of bed routine. And the more that you do that the same way every day, or at least on the weekdays, the weekend might be a little more relaxed. But the more that you do that, it's really helpful for you to actually do what you set out to do. And if you have children, it's really helpful for them too, because they do better emotionally and everything if they can predict how things will go. And they do it at school. And kids are used to that. It's time for recess. Okay, we'll go play. It's time to come in. Okay. And they're not questioning it. Like, why don't we get recess longer today? If it was different every day, how long recess was, they might have a hard time with it. And our brains might have a hard time with our mornings not being predictable, our mornings not having something that seems familiar or doable. And so you might have your wake up routine, what you do first thing in the morning. And if you have some little starting point besides waking up, that you have this normal flow of doing things, like I'm going to wake up, I'm going to use the bathroom, brush my teeth. Those might be the things that you do in the bathroom. And maybe you shower right then, but maybe you don't shower right then. Maybe you work out first and you shower later. Maybe you don't shower till that night. You figure out what things are important to do. And will this be a part of my morning routine, my nighttime routine? So maybe brushing your teeth, flossing your teeth could be both morning and evening. And some of this doesn't take a lot of brain power to recognize these are things I already value. These are things that I already do. I'm going to make sure I do that. But having kind of a s- uh, what do you call it? Not a diving board, but like some kind of platform to jump off of. I don't know what, that starting point of this is where I'm going to take the leap. This is where I'm going to start this routine. And once you have that be similar, so you go into the bathroom and you end it with brushing your teeth or whatever it is, then in your brain, and now I go into the kitchen and I'm going to grab my water bottle and put my shoes on and go work out. Maybe you work out first thing in the morning and you don't eat anything first. Or maybe you have a pre workout drink and you have something that you do within that 20, 30 minutes for that drink to really take effect in your body to when you're ready to exercise. And so, timing all those things out, a sample routine might be I wake up, I go into the bathroom, I get dressed and put on my workout clothes that I set out the night before as part of my nighttime routine. And then you go into the kitchen and you pour your pre-workout drink and you drink it. And while you're drinking it, you check your emails or you go wake up your kids or you do, whatever it is, you can have some in between time. It might seem like multitasking, but you're really just task switching. And you might need to do that because, well, one thing, you're not drinking the drink the whole half hour, but you might pour the drink. That's the part that you do at the beginning. And you might not drink the drink in one sip, obviously, but it may take 10 minutes to drink your whole drink while you're doing something else. And then notice what things might just disrupt your day or your morning routine and make you late. And that might be checking your email. Maybe if the curiosity of what may have happened overnight, what email might I have received in this amount of time, what might be coming in, I want to know. I want to know. I think of my grandparents, and they always went out to the front porch and got the morning paper, the daily paper. The Sunday paper was the biggest one. And they would make their coffee. This is my grandparents on my mom's side. They would wake up. I probably didn't see the make the coffee part. I probably wasn't awake quite yet. But when I would wake up, I could smell the coffee brewing. We didn't drink coffee at my house, so we didn't have that. But at their house, they had the coffee brewing, I guess, in a little coffee percolator, and they go and get the morning paper. And often you see, like, on TV shows or something, they might have the morning paper at the table. That was more my other grandparents. They might have it there at the table, but these grandparents would have it in their bed, and they'd bring their coffee back to their bed with the paper and read the paper together. What a fun routine. This is in retirement age. Their lives were probably a lot different when than before this, but because my grandpa was a school teacher and he still subbed up until he was in his 80s. But when I was there, he wasn't leaving to go sub. He was doing his morning routine with paper. And that was what they did. And that was something that bonded them together. And you might have something that bonds you with your children. Like when my kids were really little, before I started working out in the morning, I would have them come in and we'd all snuggle and just kind of lay there in bed, slowly waking up together, although they were already up. But that was our bonding time. So you might have bonding routines. You might have a baby that you're breastfeeding or feeding, or your children making them breakfast or eating together. And you can have bonding time, and you can have time that you get ready. So you look at, what is my morning ritual? What is my morning routine? What do I value? What do I have to do? I don't really have a choice. I need to do this, and make some kind of order to that, that feels like it flows. And if something like the evening routine, if you hate to floss your teeth, whatever you have to do to get yourself to floss your teeth, it's important. And I say this as somebody who hasn't flossed for many, many years, or hasn't been consistent with it. And I am right now. So I'm happy about that. And it makes a difference in your gum health, your brain health, lots of things. So you think of the things you value that may not be something that you want to do, but you partner it or stack it with another habit. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to floss. I heard years ago, and maybe this is common knowledge, that when you brush your teeth, it's actually more effective when it's flossed, when you've taken some of that stuff off of the teeth that brushing doesn't do. So I often will brush my teeth when I floss, brush my teeth, then floss, and brush my teeth. And I feel like the second brushing is like my reward, because we can also add a reward, or we feel a reward with some habits that we add. And the reward is I get to brush it a second time, brush my teeth a second time, and feel like I'm really doing something special, and I pat myself on the back after I floss. If I just brush in the morning and don't floss, I don't get that reward of the second brushing. But there are times that I floss twice a day, but usually just once. I've been told you only have to do it once, so I'm not pushing it there. But but different kinds of examples of what you may have that are routines is, one could be what you do when you wake up. One could be what you do for your workout, where you go, what you do. If it's the same every day, a certain time, you go to the gym, or you work out at home, or you go for a walk, or you blah, 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 go in and do yoga on your own, whatever it is, that could be a routine in and of itself. But getting out the door, you have to have that get ready and go routine, whether that's right from the time you wake up till the time you go, or you have a little time in between. And then you might have the chunks of time when you come back home. Let's say you have to take a child to preschool and you come back home. And then what's your next routine? What am I going to do with that amount of time until I go and pick up that child? And then what's the routine after I pick up that child? So you don't necessarily have to have all the minutes booked for what you do at 8:15 or 9:15 or 9:30, but you might have an alarm set 5 minutes before you have to leave that says it's time to leave. And at that point, you might have to shift from what you did, what you're working on. If you have something that you have to get done, you have to save it till later. And so you kind of just have these little chunks of time that you figure out a routine for, and that you determine what's important. And the biggest rule for me, I think, is to not tell myself that everything has the same amount of importance, because you don't have enough time in the day, or enough money, or enough energy to do all of them. So you have to break it down. You have to put on the blinders and tell yourself, I can't do all of this all the time. I can't do all of it today. I can't do all of it in this chunk of time. So you have all these things in your routine that get you ready for the next thing, or get you working on something until the next thing. And you kind of look and define those chunks. And they might be like 5 different chunks of time, or they might be 8. It depends on what your life is like. And just getting in the pattern of this will be really helpful, because you will know how to do it the next time. Like when my kids were younger, there were times when I had a kindergartner, and back in the day, kindergartners got out of school earlier than the older kids. Now I think they do full days for kindergartners at a lot of schools, maybe all of them by now. But I would get my kids ready for school. I also would often had a baby when my children were going to school, because when my oldest daughter started kindergarten, was she already in kindergarten? When she was in kindergarten, I was pregnant with my 4th child. So I think until my youngest, I always had someone little. Um, to take care of in addition to the ones I got to school. And so I worked that out somehow. Who knows how? Do you ever look back and you're amazed with what you used to do? Well, if not, look to the future because you're going to be amazed. You're going to be able to figure some of this out. So, yeah, I would wake up a baby or the baby would wake me up. Probably the baby woke me up. But I would either wake up before the baby and work out or wake up with the baby, feed the baby, then work out and the baby would go back to sleep. So that was the first chunk. While the baby's asleep, now what do I do? Get the other kids ready or help the baby get set up to eat something if they could sit in a high chair, whatever it was for that next chunk of time to get the kids out the door and take them to school. When I got back, I had 3 hours or whatever it was to do whatever it was I needed to do. Go to the grocery store. I was a stay at home mom for many years or get some things done at home, work on taxes. I just finished my taxes last night. It's just, it never gets easier. But anyway, yeah. So those things that you do until the next thing you have to do. And that might break that routine or be if you think of bookends, the beginning and the end. And that's that next little chunk of time. And then you leave the house, you go do whatever, and you have the next. Or you maybe leave the house and you go to work, and then that's your routine there. When you start work, what do you first do? Do you do the same thing every time? Do you have a choice what you do every time? Do you go in and take your coat and put it here? You usually have some I've arrived routine, whether we think about it or not, or I've gotten in the car, what do I do? All those things that we do over and over, they become routine and they become a routine. And so anytime you do something out of that, like if you're traveling, I tried to figure out the metro, the subway in Washington, D.C. When I was there in October last year. And yeah, I'm sure tourist was written all over me because I'm walking around looking up like, what on earth? And how do I get this card in this thing? And did I use the right card? Because I was given a couple cards by my cousin. And then there's 2 sides of the track to be on. I didn't know which side I was going on and chose the wrong one and went up to somebody and just said, "Is this going this way?" And they said, "No, it's on the other side." Well, then I didn't even know how to get to the other side. Everything was new processing. Nothing about that was routine. But there were people there that do that every single day. They're going to work, they do that. It's routine for them. It's going through the motions. And when you have your days filled with things that are not going through the motions, yeah, it can be stimulating, it can be exciting, but it can also be exhausting. So, and you may just not be able to get as much done. So when we have routine, it makes it easier for our brains. We don't have to plan everything out. We're going through the motions. We are more consistent. We might have things come up that are different that we didn't plan for, but we are more consistent. And it gives our brains something to bounce off of. We did this one thing, now we do the next thing, now we do the next thing. And our brains get so conditioned to that we really don't have to think about it much. And we actually desire it. It's like once we pave that pathway in our brains enough, we want to do it. Like we connect those things together. Like for a long time, I would listen to an audiobook while I would take a shower or whatever it was I would do. And then if I went in to take a shower and didn't have my phone in there to turn on the audio, I thought, what are you doing? You always do this together. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Like my brain now desires that audiobook, even though that wasn't the original reason for doing it. I didn't have a problem taking a shower when I first did that. I was just multitasking, actually. So, and sometimes multitasking can work, finishing a book while doing something else. A lot of times, multitasking gets us too confused. But I partnered or habit stacked those two things together, and then later didn't want to do one without the other. And so it really does help. Our brains are actually in our corners for that. um, you can also just have a time of day that this is where I'm really going to work on the hard things. So instead of saying, like, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to check my email, and at 11 o'clock, I'll work on taxes. You might say, morning is for, let's say you're at home, morning is for getting things cleaned up in the rooms or whatever it is. And after lunch is when I tackle the things that are harder for my brain. And that's when you focus. That's when you find a chunk of time, hopefully you have one, where you can manage your distractions. And one thing that I like to do to be productive, because it's important to me to be productive and get things done and all that, is to start with something that sounds more fun. And sometimes for you, something more creative may be more fun. And so you can look at the things that you need to have done and look at the times of the day and see when your brain is the most creative. When can you focus on something creative? When can you set other things aside and not feel like sometimes I feel like when something's really fun, I feel more guilty about it, even though I shouldn't, like, oh, I should be doing the yucky stuff. But what time of day are those creative juices going? And what time of day maybe you're just doing better, your body's more tired, you're not gonna do something where you're standing up or going back and forth to get supplies or whatever it is, setting things up, and you set your day, and I know this may sound complicated, but I know that at night, I can be super, super productive where I just go, 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 and at the point that's like 10:30, I'm like, "Really, it's 10:30? Like, I might be wanting to watch a show right now, but I am on such a roll, I wanna keep getting some work done." And I know that I can get myself to do the stuff if my body's not too tired. I guess it depends on, like, how my legs are feeling or something, if I had a hard workout or something. But where my brain works in a way to just keep going. And who knows if it's just from, like, my medication. I don't know, my ADHD medication, I find that it works better sometimes of the day than others, and maybe that's part of it. But I save some of those things for later because I think, okay, give yourself a little bit of rest because then after you get back from teaching this yoga class or after whatever it is that happens at night, then get up, put something in your ears, which is usually a podcast or something that I'm listening to, an audiobook, and I just get a lot of work done. And so I know that that can be a go around the house and get things done time. There are other times of day that it's like the sun shining, and that's when I feel like doing something more creative. Like I'm gonna wrap presents. I'm gonna figure out what to get this person for their birthday. I don't actually do very many creative things anymore. I mean, I do, but it's not like crafts or anything like that. But for me, it's more like rearranging the furniture, or I like to put things in frames, or who knows what. I like to cut things with scissors. I don't know why. I don't even know how I come up with things to cut with scissors, but there's a time of day that I like doing that, and who knows why. But I can predict more like where will my brain be more willing to do this if it's something that needs to be done, and do I do better if there's a deadline or not? Because sometimes we might think, oh, if I have a deadline, then yeah, I work really fast. But for me, sometimes deadlines make me too stressed. And so if I'm trying to put together something that I need to mail, and I'm looking at the clock and I think, okay, the post office closes at 4:30. It's 3 o'clock. Okay, start, getting your package together. And then while you're at it, get your returns from Amazon and all that. And that stress makes it sometimes harder for me to just do it. And I think, I'd rather take it tomorrow. It'll be open till 4:30 tomorrow, but work on it now or work on it tonight when there's no pressure. And when I can just feel a little freer about life in my head and not feel like, I got to get it done, because it can be stressful. So, learning those things about yourself. Do I do better when I have an open ended? It's not really open ended, but you know what I mean? More time to do it. And when am I more creative? When do I like to sit and just be on my computer and get a lot done that way? And when do I want to work on bills? Do you ever want to work on bills? I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I am the one in our family who does it. So, ooh, hoo, hoo. When do you want to give yourself a little what do they call it? Self-care? I want to say a little me time. I don't know. Sometimes movies come up in my mind and I don't know who says that, but it's really corny when they say, "Do you need some me time?" Do you know what I'm talking about? It'll come back to me. But, oh, it's on Jingle All the Way. If you like watching Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger and, um, and Rita Williams, and she's got that next door neighbor, and he comes over and he's telling her to go up and shower. I'll bake the cookies. Looks like you need a little, maybe he says you time, but anyway, I love that movie. Anyway, so back to, yeah, if you need some self care, you will look forward to that if you set it as a daily thing. And it might be a workout that at first doesn't feel like you're going to enjoy it. And if you're somebody who's always hated working out, and I keep talking about it, don't put pressure on yourself to make, this grand effort to work out. But if you're somebody who likes me, like me, who actually really loves it, but when I get out of the habit, it's hard for me to fit it in, then fit it in. And it'll be so much easier for you to do it later because you'll look forward to it. And if you have every day at this time I get to read a book, and when I say get to, like you're allowing yourself that time to slow down. Every time at this time I make a cup of tea and I sit and I just look out the window or I go out on my front porch or whatever. And finding the time for those things is important. I used to go out to my back deck and just lay in the sun. I know sun stuff, it's not really healthy, but I have a lot of Romanian in me from my grandpa, so I don't burn, and I put sunscreen on my face, so I hope that's okay. But anyway, I used to go out on the back deck for about the last year of living in that house and just put something in my ears and just lay there and just give myself an hour on a lawn chair. Is that what they call them, lawn chairs? It was comfortable. I loved it. I loved it. So give yourself that gift. Allow yourself to have some rest, however, whatever form it comes in, or a little bit of pampering. I know a lot of people go to places to get the pampering done. I like doing it at home if I can, but I don't know. It's just me. So giving yourself what you need and those different times a day. And it works really well to have those different times of focus because you're not having to keep switching from, I'm going to do this, but oh, yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. But I really was going to do that. And you've already decided, and maybe you just commit to it for a week and see how it goes. And if you find, no, I really would rather be doing this time of day than do it. But it making the decision once and just trying it out and seeing how your brain likes it, how your body likes it, how it works. You can always make little adjustments or bigger adjustments later if you have to. And yeah, playing around with different time frames, playing around with when you have the most energy, when you don't have any energy. And it can change from day to day. You might have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday that looks different than your Tuesday, Thursday. And maybe you volunteer somewhere every Tuesday and Thursday. So that day it's going to be different. But that's okay. It's still a routine. Okay, this is my Tuesday. But if you can, still get up at the same time or go to bed at the same time. Not always easy, but you can do it. You can do it right. Um, and then transition. How do you plan for transitions? Sometimes we struggle with switching tasks. And if you sit down and think, I'll just do this, then I'll get back up, sometimes that's hard. And so give yourself a little bit of time, but not too much time, or notice what your likelihood is. And if you're likely to sit down to just rest a little bit and that turns into an hour and a half of scrolling or answering texts or something that you didn't plan to do, then maybe look at that and save that for later for answering texts or whatever it is. Um, what else? What else? Oh, the number of things that we prioritize. It's important not to have this number be too big. It's better to have kind of your routine of this is what I do, but the big things that need to get done, just choose maybe 3 at the most if that's possible, because it's really hard to even get yourself to do 1. And so I usually make a Post-it note with a Sharpie because I see it better and I respond to it better. But I have maybe 2 or 3 things, each on their own Post-it note. And I'll put it on top of my computer because I know I'll always get on my computer, or I'll put it on my fridge, or I'll put it on my table where I sit to eat, or wherever it is. And I have those 2 or 3 things, and I don't try to do them all at once, but I get to choose which one sounds the most doable attractive, whatever it is, which one sounds like something I will work on right now? Will it work right now? No, because it's after hours and I need to make a phone call. It can be as small or as big as making a phone call because phone calls can take hours. They really can. If you're put on hold, transferred, trying to work with somebody, and then they tell you to call the insurance company, and then they tell you to call the doctor's office, and they call all those things can take a lot of time. And so just writing each thing on a post-it or on a note, or if you've got a planner and you write those 3 things on there and cross one off when it's done. And it might be that you plan for 3 and you only get one of those things done, but they will be there for the next day, and then you can just go back to them until you get to throw them away, and it feels really good. But it makes it more possible to get things done, and it helps you keep those blinders on so you don't think that everything has to get done that day. I do like it sometimes when I'll write in a planner or something, and it's never on a specific day because I only use my planners for the months, and the other days or weeks, I just use them for writing notes or lists or whatever I'm writing down that half the time I don't look back at. But sometimes it's nice to just write down all the things that you need to do because you might forget if you're working on something else and later look at it a month later, 2 months later. It feels really good to see that you eventually do get the majority of things done. And you might forget about something, but you actually get a lot more done than you think. So, what are you going to do once you have your schedule? Are you going to write it down? Are you going to keep it in your head? Are you going to have a planner? Are you going to have the sticky notes, the post-it notes? They do have apps that you can plan all that out. I have one that I like right now called Structured. I think it's Structured. That I saw it's pretty. Yes, I like the colors and stuff, but I found out that it had a lifetime. You know how they have some that have ads and stuff, and then you can pay more for monthly. It had a lifetime price that wasn't that much more than the monthly price, and I bought it, and I like it. But does it keep life perfect? No, but it does keep some structure to my life. I don't feel like anything will ever be perfect, but relying on your schedule to be in your head, especially at the beginning, not very likely. So write it down. Make it pretty if you want. Make a little poster. Get a blackboard with colored markers or a whiteboard with whatever and have it on there and make it easier for your brain to remember. Because at the beginning, your brain is used to the habits that you've been keeping. And when you do something new, you're not going to remember. If you try to change everything at once, it might not work, but it might work to just start with, I'm going to change my morning routine. And then next week or next month, I'll change another routine. But if you're like me, you're a little impatient and you want to change more, you want to change more faster. So having it written down can be helpful, or having somebody to share your progress with, report to you, some accountability can be helpful too. But it kind of depends on what you're doing and what you report because some people are interested in some parts of your life and not others. So just a fact of life. Oh, so some people, I don't know if you've heard this, some people have music playlists for their morning routine that like while I listen to this song or these 2 songs, I'm going to shower and dry off. And then the next song I'll be putting on my makeup, the next whatever. Or they have the same drink. I do the thing with I do sometimes with tea, but more so with a pre-workout drink. And I'll make it in the morning, and then I'll bring it in with me to put on my makeup in the other room and drink that or whatever. So if you have that same drink every morning, that becomes part of your morning routine, or the same music. Or I knew somebody who watched Top Gun every single morning. Actually, this is my husband and his roommate. I was thinking it was just his roommate. They used to watch Top Gun like back in the VHS days every morning when they were getting ready. And it was just on in their apartment. They just put it in. So it's kind of funny now that I think of it. If I had a movie to put on every morning while I got things done, what would it be? Probably You've Got Mail, but I don't know. I got to think about that. Um, so yeah, having those same tiny first things, that first step can make a difference. And it can help you beat that resistance or that friction that you have to even starting it. And, and you just think, oh, okay, like doing the dishes. I'm gonna watch Little House on the Prairie. I think I've shared that before that I did that for a lot of seasons. I kept buying the DVDs and putting them in and while I did dishes. And when it ended, when I got to the point where didn't love the later seasons too much when they were too grown up, I would go in and I would hear the opening song of Little House on the Prairie as I washed dishes. And I just thought, wow, I really loved this time we had together. Like I still had the joy of watching it without actually watching it. And it got me to do it. But yeah, it gives a signal to your brain like these things go together. And I like this because I was doing something else that made it pleasurable, that made it better. And then you can always end your day looking at how did today go? What's going on tomorrow? Having your evening routine. And eventually, I would love to have an accountability group where we all make our evening routines and we all work on them together, evening and morning routines, because those to me are key for the whole day. And your evening routine makes a big difference on how your morning routine goes. You can make your mornings so much easier by getting some things done in the evening. And maybe you don't feel like you have enough time in the evening to get things done, but we all have the same amount of time. So it's just deciding what we want to do at that time. And sometimes it's making a push to add one more thing to the evening routine. But if you do it enough, it might not even feel like much of anything. Like I pick out my clothes for the next day while I'm watching TV. And then I end up coming back in because our closet's kind of around the corner from our bedroom. And I'll always say to my husband, wait, what did they say? Like if we're watching a show. So it does disrupt a little bit if I can't miss something in a show. But yeah, look at your past the day before and see how it went. And if you need to make your new priorities for the next day, what you got done, what you didn't get done, and what you need to get done the next day. You may plan out a weekend in advance of how you need to, um, of all the tasks that need to be done. But for me, I have to look at what the goal was and then what the actual was. But you can theme your days like you did your times of the day. Like if you have a creative time or an email time or a self-care time, you can even theme your days of this day I'm going to work on all this and like a laundry day or whatever, or this day I'm going to do something in nature with my kids and that's going to be like a field trip day or whatever you want to call it and take the time to do those things because that could be your goal and that's good too. So I think I'm gonna stop now because I do have a class in 30 minutes. But but just know that you don't have to have tight grips on your schedule. It'll be harder to do if you have to do it a certain way. It's important to be on time, but the other things, they're time frames. And when we grip too tight and think it has to be a certain way, we're not able to reach that. We're not able to attain it. Um, then that can make us give up on the whole goal and we would have been better off doing it 80%. You know what I mean? Like getting what we could done in what we could get done in that amount of time. And it's so easy to have that black and white thinking to think if I'm not able to work out the whole upper body today, then I'm not going to do this workout. Well, maybe you just do shoulders and triceps because that's what you had time for because something else came up, or whatever it is. And you make adjustments. You have to be flexible. Not always easy, but you can be flexible, right? Not always easy, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So, yeah, it's just finding that daily schedule for you that works, that has some simplicity to it, and has little starting points that help us get the ball rolling with whatever part of the day routine that is, whether it's getting stuff done on your computer, getting ready, meal prep, going and picking up food, ordering food, those things that you have to do every week, every day, um, or once a week, once a month, and fitting that in. I'd love to hear your suggestions. I know for me, habit stacking or having that reward makes a huge difference. Huge difference. And if I didn't explain what habit stacking is, a lot of times at the end of the podcast, I think you started talking about this and then didn't really explain it. But if you're not familiar with it, it's when I do this, then I do that. When I do this, then I do that. And it's all of those things. Animals know it. Like when my daughter's dogs are here, if I go in to put on my sneakers, my tennis shoes, whatever you call them, if I go to put them on in there by them, they know that means I'm going to take them outside for a walk and out in our yard and go running and whatever we do. They know that that means that because they've learned that from me. And then if I go to put on those shoes to go somewhere else, they're like super upset. So I have to be really careful because I know that that one thing triggers something in their minds or their bodies. They get so excited. So I can't give them any false hope like that. But our own brains do that too. When I do this, then we think, oh, well, then you must be doing that. And then our brains are like geared and ready to go. And they just think, okay, and what's the next one? And you just keep stacking up those habits in that routine until that routine's done. Then you do the next one. And it helps life go better. But anyway, that is it for now. I better get out the door. Speaking of putting on sneakers or Crocs or whatever I'm going to wear today. I have these Croc slides and they are so comfortable. In fact, I talked about comfort and clothing and everything in the last episode. They are my new favorite shoe. But anyway, thank you for being here. I always have a hard time with goodbyes. Even when I teach yoga, it's like, what do I say at the end? It's hard. It's hard. But I can do it. We can do hard things, huh? Even if we feel a little awkward. But thank you for being here, and I will be back. Bye. Help other women find the show. Rate, review, share with someone you know. Help other women find my show. Rate, review, share with someone you know. Hurry before you forget.